reminder that this is being recorded. So welcome to Recovery Day on the Hill 2021, everyone. My name is Wendy Jones. I am a person in long-term recovery from substance use disorder, and I'm also the executive director of Minnesota Recovery Connection. And I'm really excited to be able to host Recovery Day on the Hill in partnership with March this year. So we have our co-host, John Magnuson, who is the executive director of the Minnesota Association of Resources for Recovery and Chemical Health, also known as March. And John will get to speak in just a moment. So a few items about today. We have a very full agenda, but first just want to remind everyone, what is recovery? Recovery is a big tent, and that's why we are all here today. And we like to talk about recovery as a process. Recovery is a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live a self-directed life, and strive to reach their full potential. That's the SAMHSA definition of recovery. There is no wrong door to recovery. Recovery is probable, it's possible, and there's never been a more important time to advocate for recovery.
Join the meeting.
So we're very, very glad to have all of you here today. We need to advocate for recovery to break the stigma that still exists around substance use disorder, to achieve parity with other medical conditions and how substance use disorder is understood, managed, treated, and to ensure that all who seek a life in recovery have the resources and support that they need to do so. And so today, Recovery Advocacy Day on the Hill, we're going to be focusing on 4 parts of the continuum of recovery, specifically a little bit about recovery community organizations, about treatment providers, recovery residences or sober homes, and recovery schools. But I just want to remind everyone that that's not an exclusive list. We encourage you to advocate where your passion is. There are many aspects of recovery, and we're just touching on a few of the issues that are at play in the 2021 legislative session today. And speaking of which, we are so grateful to have so many legislative speakers here today. Just a reminder that we hope that you will connect with your legislative representatives. Leverage your voice as a constituent. Elected officials are extremely responsive to constituent concerns, and they really want to hear from you. So please put constituent and your zip code when you email them. That helps to elevate your email to the top, especially most are communicating via email right now because of COVID-19. And if you're not sure who your elected representative is, that we put a link in this presentation where you can look that up. And we are delighted to have these speakers today. So as you can see, we have a really, really full agenda. And I am going to kick it off first by inviting Tori Utley to speak a little bit about recovery community organizations. And then we're going to have Representative Sydney Jordan join us. So I will stop sharing, and I hope that Tori is here, and I will
I'm here.
Great, thank you, Tori. Please kick us off.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Wendy, and hello to everyone. It's an honor to be with you today. My name is Tori Utley. I am the co-founder and executive director of Doc's Recovery House. We are a recovery community organization down in Rochester, Minnesota. I co-founded this organization with my father, Rick, who is a person in long-term recovery of over 11 years. Like many in this movement, recovery has impacted my life, my family's life very positively. And we've seen the benefit that recovery has to stand on, not just the person, but the entire family unit. So that's why we were created. We provide pre-treatment housing and peer-based recovery support, which is the benefit of what an RCO is the fact that it can be leveraged in creative ways to meet the needs of all of our diverse communities that we serve. So an RCO, if you're not familiar with it, we are non-clinical community-based organizations that are led and governed by and for individuals in the recovery community. Like I mentioned, we all leverage this model in unique ways, which is so exciting because the work that our RCO group is doing across the state is incredibly inspiring and impressive. Right now, we are 10 RCOs strong, all doing incredible work, but some of the work that we all do across the board is providing peer-based recovery support, providing community outreach and education, and policy advocacy, which is why we're here today. As we've gotten together as an RCO group, there have been some specific areas identified that as we're in this current legislative session, we need to focus on. Specifically, we have a bill out to support funding for RCO infrastructure and verbiage that would expand the geographic regions that funding is accessible. As I mentioned, we have 10 RCOs across the state, and there are over 400 treatment providers. Any one of the RCOs can attest to the critical nature of our work and the impact that we've seen boiled down to even just the individual level. The car ride where we were providing peer support on the way to a medical appointment, helping someone find housing. We've seen the impact across sometimes a couple of years in a person's life. And so it's imperative that we have the support and the funding for infrastructure and capacity planning so that RCOs can exist in every community across Minnesota. Beyond that, RCOs really advocate that recovery is a long-term event, not just an episodic event. So there needs to be the appropriate support at the state level for a recovery-oriented system of care that supports the longevity of recovery beyond treatment and prevention and across the entire continuum of substance use disorder treatment and recovery. So with that, we're passionate about making sure that recovery verbiage, words like peer-based support are inclusive in the legislation that we write and in the things that we advocate for to ensure that these services are included in our legislation, because we've seen firsthand the impact. I know I only have a couple of minutes today, so I'll wrap up to pave the way for our next speaker. But I just want to hit on that important point one more time, that RCOs, we really do fill in the gaps. We provide support so that it's evident that multiple pathways are accessible to recovery, that there's no wrong door, and that there's always room at the table. So what we've built out is a proven model that right now we want to scale. And in order to scale across the state, we need funding, infrastructure, and continued advancement of
join the meeting
system of care across our state. So it's an honor to be able to stand in partnership with my 9 other colleagues that are leading RCOs and to advocate for this growth that we're experiencing across the state. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tori. We'd like to turn next to Representative Sydney. I think the host muted me. I'd like to turn next to Representative Sydney Jordan, who, are you here?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you so much. Representative Jordan is the chief author of the bill that Tori just mentioned. So welcome, Representative Jordan.
Well, thanks, Wendy, and hi, everyone. It's so great to be here virtually with you for Recovery Day on the Hill. And even though we're all on Zoom, I can really feel the energy everyone brings to this important topic. I'm also incredibly grateful that you're all here to talk to your legislators about what recovery is and why it matters for the lives of all Minnesotans. Like so many of you, I have family members, friends, and people I love in recovery. And all their recovery journeys have been unique. Some of them have been in treatment programs, and all of them are good people who deserve to live their lives with dignity and respect. My loved ones, like all people, need services to manage their health like any other condition. It's not always easy. Like so many Minnesotans, they can't do it alone. That's why I am so proud to work with RCOs across Minnesota who recognize that every recovery journey is as different as every individual. We all need people in our lives who understand what struggles we face, our hopes and dreams for the future, and who can give us advice and encouragement to get over the barriers we face. We also know those barriers are higher and tougher for folks in recovery, and they require more tools to break those barriers down. They require housing and education and job training opportunities. They require counseling, and they also require love and understanding free of judgment. Recovery isn't static, and it doesn't happen overnight, which is why recovery programs with peer coaches work for all Minnesotans. It works for Minnesotans in recovery and those supporting friends and family in recovery. Recovery programs and RCOs work across the state in cities, suburbs, and rural communities. Recovery programs are culturally specific, and they help Minnesotans of every race, faith tradition, and gender identity. I'm introducing a bill and will be the chief author to give $2 million to RCOs across the state and expand their scope, which will support their work to provide peer counseling and other support services that would otherwise fall through the cracks for people in recovery. We know that this is an investment that will not only save the state money in the long run, but more importantly, save lives. Those lives could be yours or mine. They could be the lives of people we care about, or they could be people we don't even know yet. But we know that recovery is a process and it works when we invest in it. I just want to end by thanking you for being here today and talking to legislators. I know it's hard to share your personal stories about how your life has been impacted by recovery, and I want to thank you so much for your bravery. And here's the thing, your stories make an impact like nothing else does. Decision makers need to know how recovery makes their specific community stronger, healthier, and better for everyone. And furthermore, by sharing your stories and living as your authentic selves, you help end stigma, which makes life better for all of us. I am so thankful to work with this amazing community, and I hope you'll keep in mind, it's our job as legislators to listen and work for you. Democrats, Republicans, and independents are all better with advocates like you talking about recovery. We're so grateful to you. Thank you so much for being here today, and I can't wait to keep working with you, and hopefully soon we'll be able to all congregate in person.
Thank you so much, Representative Jordan. If we were in the Capitol Rotunda, we'd all be cheering right now. So really,
have a group hug, but I think right now is probably not the time to do that. But
really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and thank you for authoring the bill in support of recovery community organizations. We're going to have a few more speakers from RCOs a little bit later, including Fahia Budul from Minnesota Recovery Connection. But I would like to see if Senator Swedinsky is here.
Hello.
I am.
You are. Thank you so much. Senator
great.
Swedinsky, we will have you speak for a couple minutes next. I want to be respectful of the legislative schedules. Senator Swedinsky is a huge supporter of recovery and recovery schools as well, so take it away.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add that my colleague in the House, Representative Jordan, did so eloquently and passionately and enthusiastically bring up. But I will tell you this. A few years back, I went to Center City to participate in the family program at Hazelden, and it was a wonderful opportunity. And I couldn't wait to get back. I taught at Eden Prairie High School for 31 years. I couldn't wait to get back in the fall workshop to tell the chemical dependency counselor about my experience and how I'm going to bring it into the classroom and all these great things that I learned. And I went to the counseling department and I asked where the chemical dependency counselor was. And the head counselor said, we laid him off because we don't have a drug problem here at Eden Prairie. And so that was not 100 years ago, it was about 8 years ago. And and Sydney brought up the stigma. That's what we're up against. I taught less than 2 miles away from the Pride chemical the center in Eden Prairie, and I didn't even know it existed because we just don't talk about such things, and we got to get rid of that stigma. And we're doing a lot of good, not enough by any stretch of the imagination with respect to prevention and treatment, but that unknown piece of the puzzle of recovery. And as one of the earlier speakers brought up, that may be the most important piece that we're missing in these days, is that recovery doesn't, that treatment doesn't end the day you walk out of the facility. Recovery can last for the rest, well, obviously, for the rest of your lifetime in some cases, and or probably in most cases. And so we need to do a better job of getting that message out there. And all of you that are here today, we can't thank you enough as legislators. We've got to do the Peace Academy, which I visited last year. We need more places like that. Kids can't be going back into their high school or their middle school, or for hopefully never a grade school, and saying, well, I'll just won't hang around with the people I was hanging around with. I'll make new friends, because you guys in the field know that doesn't happen. And we need to have places for those kids to return to the classroom with everybody in that room has a similar story and a similar experience to support one another. And so we can do so much more, and we will do so much more. And it's going to be because of people like you that are making your voices be heard. And contact your elected officials and let them know the importance of removing the stigma, and let them know the importance of that third tier, if you will, of after prevention and treatment and of recovery. Because I'll tell you, in all those years of teaching, the worst thing I ever had to do was look at that empty desk for the rest of the term and know that that kid that sat in that desk, their demons swimming around in their head because of either mental illness or drug addiction wasn't dealt with, and they died. And I had to look at that desk for the rest of that term and wonder, what didn't I do to help that kid? And the only thing worse than that is that dinner table of that family that has to look at that empty desk for the rest of their life together. And so thank you, all of you, for what you do for recovery and for prevention and treatment. And thanks for everybody else involved today. And next time, as Jordan said, let's do this in person.
Thank you so much, Senator Swedinsky. Again, big round of applause. Really appreciate your support. I want to bring on Michael Durschlag real quick here, who's the director of Pease Academy, and one of his current students, Margot. I'll let you pronounce Margot's last name, Michael, but if you could just give us a really quick introduction to Pease Academy. And thank you so much, Senator Swedinsky.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, everybody who's here today. My name is Mike Durschlag. I'm the director of Pease Academy. Pease is an acronym for Peers Enjoying a Sober Education. We're the oldest recovery school in the country. We started in January of 1989, and we're located in central Minneapolis, right in Dinkytown. The importance of recovery schools shouldn't need any really introduction, but the National Institute of Drug Abuse, or NIDA, reports that over 97% of adolescents, when they come out of treatment and they return to their traditional school, are offered drugs on the first day. And that is a staggering statistic, and lets us know that the chances of our young people being able to stay engaged in their recovery is very, very difficult. And when we look at the other statistic, where over 9 out of 10 adults who suffer from substance use disorder started in their adolescence, and 50% of those people started under the age of 15, it illustrates even more why the importance of recovery schools is essential. I'm so grateful for the state of Minnesota and the legislature and the governor, who many years ago decided that they were going to support recovery schools in a very unique and special way, and provide a specific grant to recovery schools so we could operate. The research out of Vanderbilt University and other places have shown that not only do young people, when they enter into recovery high school, they have longer terms of abstinence, less using episodes, but they also have higher graduation rates and report a significant lower absenteeism. So we are able to help change a young person's trajectory in their life, and they can go on and to be very successful people. I had the honor of having our 30th graduation 2 years ago, and our graduation speaker was one of our first students. She came to Minnesota for treatment from New York. She graduated in 1989, and she's maintained her abstinence ever since, and she's a very productive member of society out in New York. But that's a long time ago. So, 1989 is a long time ago. So I'd like to introduce you to a current student, Margot Yousson.
Thank you, Michael. And Margot, just a couple, we're running behind, so just a few words from you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, I'm Margot. I'm a senior at Pease Academy, and I've been there since my freshman year. And really, I'd say 100% if I were to have gone back to my old high school, I used to go to Edina, I would not be sober today. Absolutely not. And, Pease has given me so many opportunities, including speaking here today. I have been able to speak at other high schools, be on a national youth committee to help make substance use curriculum, be on a research in substance abuse and addiction youth panel webinar. And also I've been able, because I'm at Pease and have been able to go through my high school experience, I've been able to apply to colleges, and I'm going to college next year, which is absolutely insane, and I never thought that I would do. And with Peace cheering me on, I've been accepted to places like UMD and Augsburg and Penn State, which is incredible. And I absolutely love Peace, and I recommend it to everybody who's new in sobriety or that I meet in treatment. And because it provides a drug-free, safe learning environment that includes everyone the second that you get there, and helps everybody stay in recovery. So
thank you so much, Margot. Congratulations. So big cheer for recovery schools. Thank you, Senator Swedinsky and Michael and Margot. And thank you to Tori and for speaking about recovery community organizations, and Representative Jordan. I want to turn it over now. We're going to bring in some other speakers later, but I want to turn it over to John Magnuson right now, who's the director of March. And we're going to hear from some more speakers. Thank you, Margot. Congrats.
Well, thank you to you, Wendy, and everyone on the line today, and especially the Minnesota Recovery Connection for hosting this annual Recovery Hill. As you said, my name is John Magnuson. I'm also a person in long-term recovery, and I'm also the executive director of March, the Minnesota Association of Resources for Recovery and Chemical Health. March is a professional association of addiction and treatment professionals and organization that are striving to raise awareness about addiction and the power of recovery. The goal of March is to improve access to quality behavioral health services for all Minnesotans who need support and share the value of long-term recovery to the individual, family, and the communities we live in. This is typically our annual pilgrimage to the state capitol to make our voice heard. No one could have predicted at the start of the global COVID pandemic that a year later we'd be doing this event virtually, causing us to have to remember that we live life on life's terms, which during the COVID pandemic has meant overdose deaths surpassing those experienced during the height of this ongoing opioid epidemic, spiking 20% higher than rates in 2019. All the while, according to the Minnesota Management and Budget, revenues from addiction-related goods were up 37 million more than predicted in July through September. Concurrently, people who already struggle with access to social determinants of health, such as stable housing and food supports, are experiencing outsized disparate impacts. Most people here today already know these realities. What's shocking is that the disconnect from the governor's budgeting team, who put forward a set of budget priorities for SUD services that are unacceptable to the field as presented. They called for unrealistic mandates to providers and cuts to essential services. These are the priorities for resource allocation during a growing opioid and addiction epidemic. To remedy and realign this, we've been working with legislative leaders, some of whom you'll hear from today, and truth be told, it was the SUD providers themselves who saw the value of quality improvements and the opportunity to request a federal waiver called the 1115 SUD demonstration that allows the state to gain access to federal funds and help deliver our services. This is why the state budgeters are calling for a mandate of all providers to participate. The problem, these budget people don't understand what it takes to deliver quality care, and they're allocating some of these resources to other parts outside of the SUD space. This is totally unacceptable, and when we're dealing with an exploding addiction epidemic and desperately in need of those funds to build out a true patient-centered behavioral healthcare system that serves all Minnesotans equally, we all need to stand up and say no. So March put together an alternative framework of solutions to help guide this budgeting process and the legislative responses that may be needed. And these include, again, reminding the governor and those at DHS that as it is, it's unacceptable. Pushing back on that mandate in favor of a ramp up, eliminating cuts to enhanced rates until after the demo proves itself, providing supports to allow all providers to participate in this demo, and keeping clinical decisions in the hands of the professionals that need to make those. And also calling finally for a rate restructuring to be completed by the end of the biennium for consideration of enactment in the 2023 session. Together with the federal waiver funds, with the many one-time COVID funds that need to be wisely invested, March has a plan that we want to work with all stakeholders to implement in Minnesota. And part of that plan is the implementation of 3 key legislative pillars: expanding access, 2, improving our workforce, and 3, creating a system that is sustainable. To do this, you're going to hear today from several of our champions that are carrying pieces of this important agenda in this session. On telehealth, we're going to hear from Representative Kelly Morrison. When it looks to systems improvement on the letter of need, we're going to hear from Senator John Hoffman. When we're looking at, again, systems improvement and paperwork reduction and putting professionals in time with their clients, we're going to hear from Senator Utley. And when we look at the ability to deliver services in our schools, as well as bringing forward some of the alternative language that's going to be needed to ensure that our voice is heard, we're going to hear from Senator Abler, Senator Utley, and Representative Baker. In addition, as the state looks at new excise taxes that could come about if marijuana were legalized, we see that those excise taxes should follow a pattern similar to how the state block grants for substance abuse services are delivered, with a portion going to primary prevention, to pregnant and parenting women, as well as to treatment and recovery. So with that, I want to now use this time to share some of the champions that are carrying forward this agenda. And as I've been speaking, I'm not certain if they are all on the line, but we'll just start and see if they're here. So I'd like to first call on Senator Paul Utley. First, Paul, if you could acknowledge that you're here, and then I'll give a quick introduction. All right. That's why I'm asking if they're here. So with that, I'm going to move on and check in and see if Senator Abler is with us.
Yeah, hey, it's Magic Square. It's a world of little boxes, isn't it?
There he is, there he is. And if I could, Senator, welcome you formally to this Recovery Day on the Hill. This is a legislator who really doesn't need much of an introduction. He has truly been a champion of both the legislative process, being first elected in 1998 and continuing after service in the House into the Senate. Now he is the chair of the Human Services Reform, Finance and Policy Committee, and we could not have a better advocate for people in recovery. Senator Jim Abler.
And thanks, and I won't take too long, but I appreciate you having me in, and I appreciate hearing some of the challenges and stories from the people ahead of me. I haven't got the volume of Senator Swedzinski, but I'll just try to settle for content. So and your group is really well respected here at the Capitol, and the work you do is getting better and better understood every year. I think I've learned a lot over my years. And I'm a 42-year chiropractor myself, so I understand how the world has changed. Used to be worried about how can I serve people, and then then you realize there's all this paperwork you got to do, and just to get paid and to be in the network, and sometimes you lose what you're really dreaming for. In short, I have a lot of confidence in John and the rest of you all, and you brought forward an alternative to the governor's plan, which I don't think they thought through very well. And so we're actually getting that drafted in the Senate, and we're on the way. We have to see what it costs, but that's our starting point. How about if we let the experts decide the policy to serve people? What if people who have made their life's work actually design the program to help, rather than somebody sitting in an office somewhere who really doesn't even understand the unintended consequences? So the department is well intended. There are good people there, but we need to make sure that the system actually remains, and that the rates are, at least you could sustain it. You don't have to do it as a loss leader. So that's my commitment and our committee. And you mentioned Senator Hoffman and Senator Utley and others. We are deeply committed in a bipartisan way to making sure that everybody gets the service they need so they can be all they can be. And recovery is a day at a time. And we all have our own paths about that, which I won't burden you with now, but I appreciate that firsthand as well. And remain committed to helping everybody who wants to get a chance to recover, and then helping people that really don't want to kind of begin to want to. So I'm with you. Thanks again for having me. God bless everybody. And it's all a day at a time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you again, Senator Abler, and we were so honored to give you the Legislator of the Year award 2 years back for your important work. Thank you again. I'm going to now call forward Representative Baker. Let me check and see if he's on the line. Let me do one more call for Representative Baker. Then let me check, is Senator Utley? All right, how about Senator Hoffman? How about Representative Kelly Morrison? All right, we know that the legislative process brings people in and out of meetings at different times. We have schedules that we try to keep to, so we have a backup plan for this. So we're going to shift to one of our other speakers right now, and then we will, after that, take and go back to seeking our legislators. So Wendy, I'll turn it to you.
Great, thank you so much, John. I'd like to call on Fahia Budul to speak now. She is a certified peer recovery specialist and a member of Minnesota Recovery Connection staff. And I'd like her to speak a little bit about recovery and her community and the importance of RCOs and peer support. So Fahia, are you here?
Yes, I am right here. Thank you so much, Wendy. Thank you, everyone. I'm so glad that recovery is here and is being advocated for. Hello, everyone. My name is Fahia Budul, and I'm a Muslim woman. I'm a Somali immigrant woman in long-term recovery. What this means to me is that I can be a mom that my children deserve to have in their life. It means not being involved in the criminal justice system, and it means not being defined by shame and guilt. Recovery gave me back my values and traditions I once had as a little girl growing up in an unfamiliar world. Recovery gave me a relationship with my children, and it also gave me and strengthened my mother's, who's my hero and my rock. Her prayers were answered by the Almighty. My area code of 55454 says a lot about me and who I represent. My community is struggling with substance abuse disorders, and I'm here to let my representatives and all the policymakers know that we need your help. Representative Mahmoud Noor, Minnesota Senator Carrie DeSertic, and U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar. The recovery community needs you. Southside needs you. You represent us on the Hill, and I want to let you know that this is what recovery looks like. Minnesota Recovery Connection is building a capacity to help our East African community achieve recovery. There has been a funeral almost every weekend due to an opioid overdose. East African mothers lack awareness and understanding about substance use disorders. We aim to make recovery available for East African immigrant population, and it's really hard to make an impact when you don't have funding. I'm here to advocate for recovery and let you know that recovery works. Let's make recovery happen for everyone who needs it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fahia. Really appreciate it. And thank you for everything that you are doing in your community and for Recovery Everywhere and for MRC. Again, there would be huge shouting and applause if we were in the rotunda. John, I think that Senator Hoffman might have just joined the meeting, so I'm going to turn it back to you.
Excellent, and I saw that as well. So with that, we'd like to now welcome you, Senator Hoffman, to unmute and join us. Senator Hoffman was first elected in 2012 and re-elected in 2020. He is the ranking minority member of the Human Services Reform Finance and Policy Committee, and he also works incredibly well with Senator Abler on a very bipartisan matter on many issues, of which I think these are some of their passion issues. So with that, I'm going to welcome now our chief author of the Letter of Need bill, or the Lawn bill, Senator John Hoffman. John?
John, absolutely delighted to be here. I was in a group conversation with Senator Carla Nelson. We're looking at specifically on the behavioral health side, but the substance use, SUD, I forget all the acronyms they throw out there, but for our kids, right now, it's a population of 16 to 18. We want to extend that 8 to 26 and allow some residential and in-home help support services for children within that age range. And so there already exists, we believe, within current language in the behavioral health home and substance abuse disorder piece that the Department of Human Services already gotten approval on. But we just need to squeeze the little barrier that's causing them from really realizing how this coordinated effort and create a medical home for people would actually be beneficial in Minnesota. And so I'm sorry I'm a couple minutes late. I was on with Senator Nelson, so there you go. It was good. But John, you bring up something about the work that I have with Jim Abler. It goes back 22 years, and it absolutely goes back to, I'll never forget. There's this guy named Jim Ramstad who taught me more in my short tenure of being appointed to a federal interagency coordinating council in Washington D.C. than I'll ever learn from anybody else. And a couple of takeaways that, we should all be aware of and keep focused on when we're talking about health and human services or education, which when we're talking about substance abuse, when we're talking about mental health, we're talking about recovery, that's all fits into that health and human services. Jim Ramstad, the Rammer, used to say, leave your ego out in the hallway and have a nonpartisan, pragmatic, common sense discussion focused on the individual and focused on the outcome that you want. Never forgot that. Absolutely never forgot that. And that's what drives the work that Abler and I do. Jim will say, yeah, Hoffman's a Democrat, and he's a Republican. And then he'd say, so what, right? And then the joking thing is I say, raise taxes on the top 1%. Jim says, no, we should block grant stuff. We just go back and forth, but we don't personalize it, right? Those of us that are in recovery know that the things that we can control, we control. The things we can't, we got to give it up, right? But the thing here is that it doesn't cause us to personalize what's going on outside of our control. Does that make sense? And so I think a couple of things the Rammer taught, and Magnuson, he worked with Jim. He got to actually hang out with Jim Ramstad on a daily basis. I just got to see him a couple times a month for 3 years, John. So, but I'm never, ever going to forget that. And that's what the role is as we do this, right? And so, I'm delighted to be part of your organization today, and I wish there was 145 of us in the rotunda right now, just lighting it up, because I like lighting up, crowds. It's kind of fun. The old drummer in me gets to yell and scream and all that sort of thing, but I won't yell and scream here. We'll keep it very calm, But you know what? You gotta not forget to tell your story to the people that you have elected and you have representing your area. Number two, you got to be able to create a relationship, because this whole thing about government, this whole thing about programs, services, it's about relationship building. And number three, that offer yourself up as that expert, right? And whatever that is, so that the elected official thinks at the top of their mind, if something pops up, they're going to go, wait a minute. What would Wendy say? What would Caddy say? What would David say? What would Tanya say? What would individuals say that would do it? And then there's a story to that, because it does work. Years ago, I was doing some educational advocacy, and Jim Abler was one of our co-authors of a bill in the House at the time that realize schools used to be able to put kids with disabilities and kids that were having some kind of thinking going on, they would be able to lock them in a room, right? I mean, can you imagine deprivation and aversion? And we were trying to get rid of that. And we really needed to get some help, and we needed the minority lead in the House at the time to sign on to this bill. And so we called him out of committee, and his name was Marty Seifert. He'll even tell you the story if you know who Marty is. And Sam Walseth, Bob Brick, and I start telling them about this big, thick bill that we really need. And we're trying to protect kids, specifically kids with disabilities, or kids that are having some kind of emotional breakdown, something that's going on, right? And he looked at us and said, what does Marge Mann think of this bill, right? And you need to know, Marge Mann is this mom from Marshall that was his person of expertise as a mom. And we said, Marge loves this bill. He didn't even read the bill, folks. He grabbed the bill, was looking for a pen, and he signed off where he needed to sign, and he said, thank you very much. Two things it says. Number one, he trusts and believed, and there was accountability and valid in the parent that he was there. And number two, that process was that he looked at us because we were being honorable about what we wanted to do with this. And because of that honorability and the relationship that we had, he signed on to that bill. And I don't even know to this day, John Magnuson, if Marty Seifert ever read that thick bill. But the fact is, it was a constituent, a parent who told her story, who became the expert. So that's what I'm saying to you guys. Tell your story, be the expert, create a relationship, and then help us understand what the unique needs are that we need to deal with. Does that make sense?
It does, and we are so grateful for you, Senator, and thank you for being here. You bring wise words of wisdom, and thanks for the shout out to Jim Ramstead.
Miss him.
We will be in touch with you again, and thank you. And Wendy, I'm looking at.
I think Representative Morrison is here.
Great. Representative Morrison, we'll ask you to unmute yourself. Representative Morrison is a new member of the legislature and the Assistant Majority Leader. And we are very grateful for her leadership as well as her work yesterday on amending the telehealth bill to include provisions that help our field. So with that, Representative Morrison, if we can invite you to join.
Well, thank you so much and good afternoon. I'm so excited to get to participate in Recovery Day at the Capitol with you all. Thanks for inviting me. I'm Kelly Morrison and I represent District 33B, which is in the western suburbs of Minneapolis. I'm also a physician, so I've seen firsthand the effects of untreated substance use disorder and how many barriers exist, both to getting needed treatment and ongoing support that's necessary to manage recovery. The COVID-19 pandemic has wreaked havoc on all of our lives and, of course, taken too many lives, both directly and indirectly. We know that opioid use disorder and alcohol use disorder have spiked over the past year as people have suffered economically and spiritually, as we've had to isolate ourselves and in some cases be cut off from our usual support systems in order to contain the virus. And we know there will be fallout from this year long after most everyone is vaccinated and life returns to some semblance of normal. We've also learned a lot this year. And if there is such a thing as a silver lining of a global pandemic, one candidate has to be the increased usage of telemedicine. The ability to reach people where they are for appropriate visits has helped to minimize contact as part of the strategy to decrease transmission of COVID-19. But we've also realized that it has other benefits. In many cases, it's a much more convenient option for people, saving them time and money. It's also increased access to care for our underserved communities. And adding the use of telephone services has been especially useful for many, particularly in the realm of mental health care and addiction treatment. And I have to say, in our hyper-partisan world, it's refreshing to work on legislation that can help all of us, and telehealth is one of those issues. And I'm lucky and proud to partner with Senator Julie Rosen to offer the Minnesota Telehealth Act this session. In our bill, we aim to codify some of the changes that were made by executive order early in the pandemic to help minimize the spread of the virus. And the bill does several things. It renames telemedicine to the more inclusive telehealth. It removes that arbitrary 3 visit per week limit for medical assistance. And it defines the originating site to where the patient is in order to literally meet people where they are. It includes telephone-only services as long as they meet the standard of care for the service rendered. And it's important to note that nothing in the bill requires patients or providers to use telehealth. The provider has the right and responsibility to determine if telehealth is appropriate, and a patient has the right to choose not to receive care through telehealth. The bill requires insurers to reimburse a provider for services based through telehealth on the same basis and at the same rate as they would if they were provided in person. The bill was heard in the Health Finance Committee yesterday, and I did offer that amendment that John referred to specify that alcohol and drug treatment counselors, treatment coordinators, and recovery peers be included after the good folks at March pointed out that need to me. This bill has been laid over for possible inclusion in the Health Finance Omnibus budget at the end of session. So be sure to contact your legislators and let them know how important this is to you. We've learned many things over the past year, and one of them is the positive addition of telehealth services to the healthcare toolbox. as we confront the healthcare disparities that exist by race, geography, and economic status in our state, as well as the mental health and substance use disorder crises that we face in Minnesota, telehealth will be an important modality to tackle them. So thanks so much to the Minnesota recovery community for making Recovery Day on the Hill such a success, and for all you do to advocate for treatment and recovery.
Thank you again, Representative Morrison. You are a great champion for us all.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Wendy.
Thank you, Representative Morrison. I think we might have Representative Baker here.
Excellent. Representative Baker, we ask you to unmute, and Dave Baker is somebody who for this community hardly needs an introduction. He's first elected in 2014, serving his 4th term, and he has been one of the chief authors of the opioid bill, as well as has personal reasons for being a part of this. And with that, we are truly grateful for all you do, Dave, and want to open up the floor.
Thank you, John. Thanks, Wendy. It was good to see my friend Kelly Morrison, representative who just spoke, and John Hoffman before that. Just want to say to everybody that's part of the MASH family here that it has been an honor for me to serve down here, but also to work with John and his team on so many issues that really matter to people in recovery, people in addiction, and to try to get the policy right so that we can do a better job addressing some of these really complex issues when it comes to addiction. Ironically, today is very personal to me because it's my son passed away 10 years ago today. And it was understanding Dan's addiction that I know somehow steered me to come to St. Paul to try to make a difference somehow. And we started a foundation for Dan. We are just now sunsetting that, this week because of the 10-year anniversary. We're making our final donation to a local treatment facility. And I feel like it's ironic that I'm here today, John, speaking to this group because I care so much about you. I care about the folks that have had to walk this journey, that I don't know what this is like. But I also know as a dad, I didn't and I should have known more when my son was more sick, because I was like so many, I didn't know how to address it. I didn't know what it was like. I was embarrassed, I was shamed, and we didn't handle it the right way back then. He knew we loved him like crazy. We did everything we could, but his journey in recovery with a relapse is what we hear so often and too many times. And what's happened this year, again, as you know, with the pandemic, our numbers are absolutely going in the wrong direction. We need to get ourselves back on the bike again. I will continue to work hard on so many bills. I don't want to go into those details today just because you've got amazing authors and co-authors working on this thing. I'm really proud to be the vice chairman of the Opioid Epidemic Response Council. That was part of that House File 400 that we have worked on with the licensing reform. We took on the pharmaceutical companies and we won. We're the first in the country to do that. And we are starting to seeing the fruits of our labor, to start getting dollars coming into our council, and money will start to get out to communities where you've got the need and the desire and the leadership and the plans in place to help grow these programs that we need to get there to help so many people in recovery. So I'm committing my life to this. However long I'm here in St. Paul is one thing, but I'm committing my life to this because that's what Dan would have done for me if it were the other way around. So my friends in March and my friends in the recovery community, thank you for walking with us on helping people like me understand this disease better. I have come a long, long ways, and I am proud to be talking about my son Dan as often as I can. We have so many amazing memories of his life, and I was proud to be his dad. Now it's my job to make sure that other dads and other moms and other brothers and sisters know it's okay to talk about this, because this is not something to be ashamed of. There's lots of help out there. We've got an amazing community that will wrap their arms around you and love you up. You got to be ready for that. And I've learned so much about what this horrible disease does to people. So I will continue my work on this as best I can with amazing colleagues that I call my friends down here. I love you, Dan. I miss him a lot. And with that, I will continue to do everything I can, John. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of this today. So
well, thank you. Thank you, Dave. And we love you, and we are proud of you and the work that you do on behalf of Dan and all of those that are in need of the vital services and the pathways to recovery. So thank you for being a true champion and also your personal passion. And
yeah. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you so much, Representative Baker. John, I'm not sure if we have Representative Thompson here or not.
I've not seen Representative Thompson nor Senator Utley. If either are on, please let us know. Otherwise, I think we'll turn it back to you, Wendy, to keep us moving.
Great. Well, if they pop in, we'll get them in eventually. I want to take this moment now to introduce Chris Edington from the Minnesota Association of Sober Housing. Again, our 4 issues today are recovery education, recovery schools, recovery community organizations, treatment providers, and recovery residences. And so Chris, could you speak for a few minutes?
Yes, sure. Thanks, Wendy, for having us. Hi, guys. My name is Chris Edington. I'm sober about, I think, 22 years or so. I'm a product of the St. Paul sober community. And I've been on the MASH, Minnesota Association of Sober Homes board since its inception in 2008. With some sober house owners, we all used to get together, 3 or 4 of us at Day by Day Cafe, and talk about how to run a good sober house. And 12 years, 13 years later, MASH is a really organized, unbelievable organization full of people who care a lot about running sober house as well. And I want to make it known for some people who probably don't know that there is a national organization called NAR, National Alliance of Recovery Residences. And there are state affiliates all over the country. There's about 32 of them, and they're all MASHs. So Minnesota, there's one in Washington, there's Massachusetts stole our acronym also, they have MASH. So there's 32 MASHs out there, and then NAR, and I'll tell you, NAR, N-A-R-R online.org, you guys check it out, is the National Association of Recovery Residences, which is sort of an umbrella term of all kinds of sober houses that live underneath that. But the important thing to know is what MASH really does. And MASH does 3 or 4 primary things. Primarily, we do certification of homes. So we go look at your sober house. We have a set of criteria we look for. Things like, you got to have a bathroom for every 7 people. You got to have enough refrigerator space. The place has to have smoke detectors. We take the city inspection, life safety stuff, and we supplement that with a little bit more stuff that MASH requires you to do. So we do certification and inspections. We do manager training twice a year. This year, we're going to include some operator training in that, which I'm excited about. So we basically take all the new sober house managers and give them a bunch of stuff to learn and talk to each other about. And then we have some standards that we hold all the members to. And within those standards, which are actually dictated or written by NAR, when NAR started in 2011, they called me and asked me to come be part of that board. And they said, by the way, could you bring the MASH documents with you because we don't have any. So MASH started before NAR. So what's important there is that also includes a complaint line where members and residents can call and say, hey, I don't think I'm getting a good deal here at my sober house, or a sober house operator can call and say, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me? And we all help each other out. So this state organization has been around since 2008. And the national organization has only been around since 2011. What I think is the most important thing that is the responsibility of MASH is to help all of our providers be really good sober house providers. We've all heard the horror stories, but the reality of it is that you don't hear about day in, day out. There's a lot of amazing operators out there doing really good work, hard work. It's not a lot of money. It's not a lot of praise. It's tough stuff. I've been doing it for a long time. And I think some of us really ought to take into account sometimes how difficult it is to do that. I'd like also to recognize that I, as some of you may know, own St. Paul Sober Living. And so I've traveled nationally to conferences all over this country, treatment center conferences. And as part of NAR, I've traveled all over the country. Everybody in this country knows about the sober community in St. Paul. Everybody knows about it. It's vibrant, it's huge. And if you really talk, if all of us took a poll from a bunch of people that were 3 or 4 years sober and said, tell me what mattered the most, many of them would tell you the relationships they developed in the community. Either it was through their IOP or through their counselor or through their sober house. And the sober house is somewhat of the microcosm of that community. So it's a really important part of what I call the medicine of recovery, which is the community. Right now, there is, to be relevant to today's conversation, some pending legislation to do a study of the sober houses in the state of Minnesota and make sure that see if the state needs to come in and create some sort of oversight. I won't get too into the weeds with that, but MASH knows what it's doing and NAR knows what it's doing. And I really encourage those of you who want to be part of the bigger picture, get involved in MASH. It doesn't matter if you own a sober house or you ever lived in one. If you have something to bring to the table, we've got a committee assignment for you. And we would be more than happy to have people get involved. So I want to say, sort of encapsulate this thing with when I've always come to the rotunda every year for this thing, and it's just been a sort of rah-rah for sober people. And I don't want to forget that. This isn't just about legislation. I think we should be so proud of what Minnesota has and what it does for the sober community. When I was withdrawing from heroin in Boulder, Colorado, and I was sitting in this bar in 1998 and I was completely screwed, these two guys I used to know that were clean 5 years, they looked at me and they said, dude, you got to go to Minnesota or you're going to die. That was 1998. I've been here ever since. I knew one person when I got here. The community threw its arms around me, and I'm 20 years sober now, 22 years sober. So we should be very proud of what this community has to offer. The whole Twin Cities sober community is well known throughout the whole country. I appreciate you giving us the time to talk about MASH, Wendy, and I'd love to answer questions if you want to do that at the end.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you for all that you and MASH do. We want to bring the event to a close with a really dynamic speaker, Brendan Smith from Twin Cities Recovery Project. And I also just wanted to say that we should be very proud of everything that Minnesota has accomplished, but we also have a lot of work to do, especially in the area of racial equity. We have a great track record in Minnesota, but we have a lot of gaps to fill in terms of recovery support services for people from from non-white communities. And Twin Cities Recovery Project is an outstanding recovery community organization that is really meeting the needs in the Minneapolis area, especially for the African-American community. And so, Brendan, are you here?
Yes, I am. How are you?
Great. Tell us a little bit about yourself and take it away.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brendan Smith. I am a certified peer recovery specialist at TCRP, or Twin Cities Recovery Project. But more importantly, I'm a person in long-term recovery. And what that means to me is that I can be the best version of myself. I'm a better father, better co-worker, and just all around better human being. My recovery is also giving me a chance to work in this recovery field and do some amazing, amazing things. And I attribute all of that to this RCO that embraced me, as Chris was saying previously, and wrapped their arms around me and put me in a position to actually start to change lives. I want to talk about today just about the importance of what this RCO has meant to me, and I'm sure the other 9 affiliates here in the state. RCOs go where nobody else will go. Every aspect of the continuum of care is important, but the roles of the RCO, to me, are so amazing because of that fact alone. We do outreach, we go to the places, we meet people where they're at, and we know a big part of even getting recovery is feeling like you have support. And I definitely felt that when I came to Twin Cities Recovery Project. I was fairly new to recovery, only had probably had 11 months of clean time, didn't know what a peer recovery specialist was. I got into the training and I got certified and my life transformed. Since then, I have been able to maintain my recovery through my work. They pay me for my recovery, which is crazy. I would do this for free, right? But that's the beauty of the RCOs. I'd like to thank the public officials that are here, along with the whole sober community, man. It's an honor to see all of this. I've never been in a Zoom meeting that's had 6 pages of people here to just talk about recovery, something that means everything to me in my world, and just be able to be a part of it, man. I'm definitely honored. RCOs, we need the funding. Although, yeah, we do it for free, but we know it takes so much, man. And I'm so elated that I have this opportunity to close. It was kind of giving me some anxiety, but now I know that I'm supposed to be here and that this recovery movement that I represent and the message of hope, that change is possible, and it's so easy to sustain recovery if the proper supports are in place. And it's all right here. And I thank you guys so much. I see we 1 minute over, but thank you, Wendy, for this opportunity. There's some people I've seen in this room that I've met. Can't wait to get to know everybody. Next year, we'll all be at the Hill, guys. Next year, we will. But thank you. RCOs are so important, and everybody's roles are so important. And this just lets me know that we're going to make a big dent. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Brendan. Sorry to put the pressure on you to be the closer, but
no worries. I love it. I love it.
You're outstanding. Everyone, I'm so grateful for everyone who spoke today and showed up today. Please, please, please go back out to your communities, spread the recovery love and recovery advocacy, contact your legislators. Thank you so much to our legislative officials who were here today. We know that session is happening and they had to pull out of other meetings. So we heard from almost everyone. John, do you have any last closing words?
Huge thank you from all of us to you, Wendy, to organize this and do it year after year, and all the great work that MRC does, as well as the recovery communities. Thank you.
Well, thank you, John. And thank you so much to March for being our collaborator this year. And recovery works. Recovery is everywhere. We are recovery. We have our work cut out for us. We'll stay on the line a little while if anybody has questions, but this is the official close to Recovery Day on the Hill. And next year we will be at the Capitol.